Okay,
Yes.
so hello and welcome everyone. Thank you for having us here today, and I hope that you're all doing well. So, 18 months into the pandemic, and we're still here. Are you all working from home or already back to your offices? So, regardless, I do hope that you can still stretch a little of your time to hear yet another webinar. But this one, I'm sure you can get um, a lot from here. And I'll be talking about the perils of wrong approach in cybersecurity. So you may be asking, do you mean that if our approach is wrong, there is a perfect approach then? Well, to set expectations, I know that there is the best approach. And in cybersecurity, what we do is actually adapt to what's happening and try our very, very best to apply necessary steps and think ahead. How can we secure our environment that is better than before? All right. So let's talk about what went wrong in the span of 2020 to 2021, we did not only hear big news about the number of positive cases, deaths, or vaccines, but also big news of cyber attacks. Some of the popular ones, well, because they are high profile, and how massive the impact was. In December 2020, you might have heard of it, SolarWinds was attacked by APT29 group. And what they did was malicious code was injected into the Orion server and sent out to customers by way of the normal software updates. Then, March 2021, Hafnium and other group of hackers exploited multiple zero-day vulnerabilities to attack on-premise versions of Microsoft Exchange server. Colonial Pipeline, have you heard of it? May 2021, Dark Side Hacking Group ransomware that took down the largest fuel pipeline in the United States and led to shortages across the East Coast and was the result of a single compromised password. Hackers gained entry to Colonial Pipeline just because of a compromised VPN account. Kaseya, July 2021, this is much recent. The weekend of independence in the US, it's around 2nd of July, the 4th of July, the attack happened. The Revil group of ransomware actors pushed ransomware via an update for Kaseya's IT management software. And most recently, Accenture, August 2021, reported that Lockbit ransomware get into their environment, threatening to release the company's data and sell insider information in the darknet. So, well, what went wrong? But we do not put blame to them for whatever wrong happened, but we can definitely learn from their hindsight. Do you agree? So let's dig into our tech talk today. I'm going to discuss first everyday threats, what the IT team sees every day that could potentially turn into a massive attack when neglected after some time. These are normal ones that you can see probably from day-to-day operations. Second is the rise and future of ransomware. I think it is only necessary to talk about ransomware because this is the most effective way that I knew hackers grow their business at our own expense. Third, evolving your cybersecurity approach. I hope you reach this part because this is where the important tips that we knew could better and could improve the approach or our current approach in our cybersecurity. So allow us to help you in our own, little ways. Okay, so everyday threats. First off is phishing. Okay, what's wrong about phishing? We cannot ensure 100% that a phishing email won't reach you or your employees' inbox. But question is every single person in your company aware on how to spot a phish and what to do about it? Phishing emails become a more serious threat when we lack the security awareness inside our organizations. You probably know about it. By that, I don't mean that they have to be as security inclined as yourselves. They don't have to know what malware is, what does this threat impose to me, but at least should be equally aware of how phishing works and what may be its impact to you if they missed it. So honestly, it only takes one wrong click or download from a person for hackers to set a foothold in your environment and do their objectives. Have you heard about the term cyber pandemic? It was coined because our tough times currently are also exploited by the attackers to lure and vulnerable. And the result, the lockdown across the backed up rest of times, the most comes to produce a sense of urgency, just like what you are seeing on your screen now. And to demand that the recipient act on the message as quickly as possible. This is a well-known psychological trick because if you take a couple of moments to think about the contents of the spam message, you will probably realize it is a fake. So if the spammer triggers a fear reaction, you act before you think and you get snared in the trap. So COVID-19 already had everyone in a hair trigger, so spammers or try particularly hard. So if you encounter emails like this, trust your gut and speak to the subject in question directly. If you can ask for guidance from someone else if you cannot reach them. The more real employees get involved in handling these requests, the more likely it will be that the scam will be discovered before any damage is done. All right. So it gets harder these times, especially for the organizations who are working or encouraging their employees to work from home. Because before we could just reach out to the guy, being used or someone in the email asking for this thing. But now it's harder because we need to contact them. But please do that step. That is necessary, especially if there are money at risks. Okay. So it should be an integral part of our phishing awareness as well and training programs to remind ourselves why this is so important. So with that, I'd like to share a case study where our Sophos Rapid Response team, we call them the firefighters because they are the ones you can call when there's an active cyber attack in your environment, regardless if you are a Sophos customers or not. And they were recently called out to assist a company experiencing a major ransomware attack. So there might be a lot of information in your screen right now, but I'm going to drill it down. So the attack started when an employee received a phishing email. In that email appeared to come from a colleague in another office. So it is likely that the attackers had accessed the co-worker's email account to trick the fellow employees into trusting the message. So the message was very short. It is written in poor English, and it asked the employees to click on a link to check a document. So the link was in fact a malicious web link, and when the employee clicked on it, they enabled the attackers to get the access credentials for the domain admin. So the rapid response team believed that phishing email was sent by an initial access broker. It is a cyber criminal that focuses on securing access to organizations' environment and then selling the access on other adversaries for use in a range of attacks, including ransomware and data theft. So as you can see, it is only after 8 weeks from the start of the phishing email that the attackers installed and ran PowerView to perform the network reconnaissance. So there, it is the time when the initial access broker was looking for someone to buy the credential that he has or they've got inside your environment. So 8 weeks later, however, a malicious actor installed and ran two tools, Cobalt Strike and PowerView on the victim's computer. So these are commercial tools used legitimately by penetration testers. It usually get past the perimeter protection because sometimes it is allowed because some vulnerability management or assessors are using them. So the attackers probably use Power Review to perform network reconnaissance, while Cobalt Strike provided persistence that enables them to remain in the network. For about 2 weeks after the attackers' exploratory activity, everything went quiet. So the rapid response team believe that it is because they are still looking for the suitable buyer after the access to credential. So once sold, the new owners were quick to take advantage of their purchase. They soon appeared on the network, installed Cobalt Strike and more machines, and began to collect and steal information. So 3 months after the original phishing email, the attackers unleashed Revil ransomware at 4 a.m. local time and demanded a ransom of $2.5 million. And that is how serious a phishing email can impact a company if we missed it. So second one are the abused security tools. So you probably have heard me mention some of them in the previous slide: Cobalt Strike, Power Review. So some attacks don't involve malware at all, or wait to deliver malware until the very end of the attack. That is what we call the payload. So instead, using just the tools already on the operating system, running on computers across a network. So other criminals may leverage the power of a range of tools used by two large segments of the information security industry: their incident responders and the penetration testers. So in this illustration, Networker's toolset. Networker is a group of ransomware actors, and you can view the toolset used by a threat actor that is involved in real-time incidents. They used an array of open source, freeware, and commercial utilities at different points during the attack. So some of them probably are familiar to you. Just look at the lateral movement. TeamViewer, AnyDesk, those are applications that we normally use, especially currently. These tools are valuable to attackers for a number of reasons. Because they are often used in a legitimate capacity, it's probably to audit or otherwise improve the system security. It can also be difficult for antivirus or security solutions to detect such tools or activity outright. Now, these are what we would normally see as part of an active adversary attacks. Sophos currently tracks the use of 99 different attack tools. It seems unlikely that we are going to see reprieve from attackers continuing to take advantage of this well-written tool throughout 2021. On your screen is one of the reports that we've released as part of the Active Adversary Playbook 2021 from Sophos. So the pie chart shows the items most likely to be found in an attacker's toolbox. So the full list of tools seen in attacks total to 405, and most of them are distinct, identifiable tools, and many can also be used by IT professionals for benign purposes. Just look at that 11% for PowerShell. They appeal to attackers because they allow them to implement activities such as credential stealing, discovery, lateral movement, and malware execution, and more, while blending in with harmless everyday IT activity. So the number and the nature of tools seen highlight the challenge defenders face in differentiating between what is malicious and what is legitimate activity on the network. So for example, Process Hacker, PC Hunter, and GMER are all legitimate tools that include kernel device or drivers. If an attacker gets the right kernel driver installed, they can often disable security products. The fact that attackers are now routinely trying to do this is a testament to how good security products are at disrupting the attack kill chain. So in other words, if you can't beat them, try to break them. It is good security practice to ensure the use of these tools is blocked except for specific circumstances, and to investigate what is going on if they are spotted being used by any other time. So the earliest observed attack vector, rather, or still the number one delivery mechanism, is RDP. Are you using it? So remote access services such as RDP or remote desktop protocol were involved at the start of almost 30% of the attacks. So the impact of COVID-19 lockdown era has only increased the problem, or what do you call that? Um, amplify this problem, as increasing numbers of organizations and workers are forced by circumstances to rely upon the RDP connection in order to remain operational, even remotely, right? So the main risk here is that RDP was never meant to withstand the kind of attacks it can receive from the public-facing internet. So in the research performed before the lockdown took place, Sophos set up honeypots in 10 data centers around the world to better understand just how bad the problem had become. So over a 30-day period, the honeypots received a median average of 467,000 RDP login attempts, or about 600 per hour at each location. So those locations you can see on the map on your screen. The research revealed that each honeypot received at least 6 attempts per second. But then our advice to IT managers remain the same and simple. RDP should never face the public internet, but instead be placed behind a firewall that requires users to connect via VPN, or more securely, a zero trust facility. And admins should strengthen Windows password policies to require longer passwords and multi-factor authentication token or application. All right. Third one is the supply chain. The supply chain. This is related to the trust that we give to third parties we work with day in and day out. How safe are they? Are we prepared for this kind of attack? What makes this type of attack so deadly that the fact that they are notoriously difficult to detect? So let's talk about first how the supply chain attacks are delivered exactly. One of the three of the common delivery mechanisms, first is still phishing. Okay, supply chain attacks differ in terms of how they are delivered. The principle and the end game for attackers are often the same. The end game is to steal credential, get your data, sell your data, ask for ransom, or spy on internal communications. Phishing, one of the most common attack vectors, still utilized by supply chain attackers nowadays. So attackers target trusted third parties with phishing emails to compromise and gain access to their networks, and then use them as a springboard to infiltrate the client systems. Software updates, this is the most common one, but more sophisticated supply chain attack. Hackers infiltrate the infrastructure of a software company or distributor and insert malicious code into software update packages. The third party then distributes these updates to their clients. So somehow the third party is doing some of the works that hackers are, should be doing. They are spreading this through normal software updates. And as you can imagine, the consequences can be really devastating, particularly if the organization had a large portfolio of customers. Third one, and less common ones nowadays, but we have seen and we predicted that this will be common in the coming years, is the poison packages. It happened during the software development process, and it's like poisoning the ingredients you use for your meal, or we can treat that meal as your software in development or your application in development. So it happens when the use of the cloud, Docker, and agile development methodologies grows. So does the use of the off-shelf components to shorten the software development cycle. For developers, they know how convenient it is to use off-the-shelf components. Malicious actors have begun to booby-trap some common used containers, libraries, and other resources, hoping to get bundled into your end product. So that's how poison packages work. Let's look at the supply chain attack and the most popular one, SolarWinds. This is a case study And in late 2020, December, it was discovered that the supply chain of IT management firm SolarWinds had been compromised. This discovery created headlines across the globe, trust, trusting the vulnerability of supply chain security into the spotlight. It is thought to have impacted over 18,000 of their customers. So in this attack, hackers managed to insert malicious code into SolarWinds infrastructure and monitoring and management platform, which is called the Orion. So this malicious code was then unwittingly sent out to customers by way of standard software updates. And it is reported that that in the region of 18,000 customers installed the updates, leaving them vulnerable. So worryingly, indications of foul play were suspected by SolarWinds as far back at September 2019, as seen in the timeline on this slide. This suggests that both that the move was calculated and that the threat actors exercised extreme caution, seeking to trip as few alarms as possible in their intrusion. That is how sophisticated this is. It is well planned, and it is carried out slowly but surely. The success of the attack, dubbed Sunburst, gave the actors wide-ranging access to corporate and governmental information systems. And more importantly, the global scale of the attack has highlighted just how unprepared many organizations are when it comes to defending against supply chain attacks. Let's move on to the second leg of the presentation, the rise and the future of ransomware. So ransom payments rise as the attack increases. That's the truth. Here's another case study of blocking what could be one of the most expensive ransom demands, 15 million US dollars. When an organization was targeted by then still what we call the Maze ransomware attack, it turned to Sophos Rapid Response Team. We investigated and actively countered the attack while it was still in progress. So what you see here is a day-to-day summary by the attack as it unfolded. So there are a lot of details here, so let me summarize while you take the moment to read this. So in the first wave of the attack, which was ultimately blocked by the organization's endpoint protection solution, attackers targeted 700 computers with Maze ransomware and were making a ransom demand of 15 million USD. Realizing that they were under attack, the target security team engaged the advanced incident response skills of our Sophos Rapid Response Team. So our response team specialists quickly identified the compromised admin account, again, another account, identified and removed several malicious files and blocked attackers' command and control or C2 communications. So looking at the timeline, the attempt to compromise did not only happen once. That's how deliberate these ransomware actors are today. So the Sophos team was then able to defend against 2 additional waves of attack by the adversary. You can see that at day 9, the second attack, and still in day 9, the third time attempt. So if the attackers had succeeded and the victim had paid, this could have been one of the most expensive ransomware payments to date, 15 million US dollars. But sometimes the attack happens so fast, there is nothing the organization can do, and the target must then decide whether or not to pay the ransom, at which point Sophos is no longer involved. And that's where companies like Coveware come in. And the company represents ransomware targets, a high-stakes negotiator with their attackers. So the CTO of Coveware, Alex Holdman, confirmed our suspicion that ransomware heavyweights are the primary driving factor in the demand for high or sky-high ransoms. So in just the past quarter, the average ransom payout has risen by 21%, but Coveware believes the average can be skewed by just 1 or 2 very large ransom attacks. The average ransom payout in the just completed quarter is now the equivalent of US dollar $233,817.30, payable in cryptocurrency A year ago, the average payout was $84,116. So ransomware threat actors understand how expensive downtime can be and have been testing the upper limit of what they can extract in a ransom attack. So let's talk about the future. As cliche as it may sound, ransomware groups pray together, or should I say pray together, and they stay together. And what happened to be a wide variety of ransomware may not be as wide as it seems. As time went on and we investigated an increasing number of attacks, Sophos analysts discovered that some ransomware code appeared to have been shared across families. Okay, and some of the ransomware groups appeared to work in collaboration more than in competition with one another. So they are grouping up. They are finding the families that, do the same execution, do the same techniques as they are, and they share codes. That made them even stronger. So ransomware operators pioneered also new ways to evade endpoint security products. That is their, the first goal is to invade and to stay under detected by these security products. The next objective they have is to spread rapidly, and even came up with a solution to their problem of targeted individuals or companies that have really good backups, secured backups. So what they do is they also look for those files, for those backup, and also encrypt them. So that is how they are doing their thing now. Given all this, it's hard to make any kind of reliable prediction, to be honest, of what ransomware criminals will do next. Because as you know, when they team up, we don't know what will happen next. Ransomware creators and operators have burned a lot of time working on defenses against endpoint security products. Yes, we counter their countermeasures. They show creativity and versatility in devising new tactics, new techniques, but as a security company, we show tenacity in studying what they do and finding clever ways to stop them. So if there's only one thing you can remember from this webinar, I suggest it is this. It is time to evolve our cybersecurity approach, right? So one of the first recommendation is shift from a reactive to a proactive approach. Assume that you are always compromised. So I've read one article just a few days ago. The writer says it is not the question of if you are going to be one of in those headlines, but a question of when and how impactful or how great or how massive the effect will be. So reactive, actually wait for something to happen before you take steps. Proactive, anticipate something bad will happen so the defenses were made stronger. So it's better to be hit that when you are ready than hit and prepared. SolarWinds was the wake-up call for many organizations across the globe. Once an attack becomes obvious, it is often too late. By the time a criminal drops a payload, they may have already stolen critical data and often have had access to your network for days. You need to adopt a new mindset. Assume you are always compromised and hunt for the threats before it is too late. Second, monitor for early signs of compromise. Employ technology, the best technologies, yes, but please do not neglect the human intelligence. During investigations conducted by our Managed Threat Response team, two things stand out as early indicators of compromise. One is the use of credential for remote access and administrative purposes during off hours. The other is the abuse of system administration tools to conduct surveillance and steal data from the network. So the use of legitimate accounts and your own tools gain retained persistence in often referred to as the living off the land. Siguro narinig nyo na siya. So detecting these behaviors requires vigilance and skill. However, they stand out clearly to a trained security operations analyst, alerting you to the attack before the bulk of the damage has been done. So you should either invest in the technology and training needed to monitor for these indicators of compromise in-house or engage a managed detection response service provider to monitor on your behalf. So who would like, a peaceful weekend or a peaceful holiday? Well, it's time to, employ a service who can work on your behalf, monitor your environment, and tell you what these indicators are trying to do. Okay. So next is audit your supply chain. Assess the organizations you are connected to. It may sound obvious, but taking some time to map out a list of all the organizations you're connected to can be really very important. There are there are probably more than you think. In conducting this exercise, you will quickly be able to identify the weak links, example organizations that are more susceptible to cybercrime. And you can take further actions to mitigate the associated risks. Once you have mapped out who you are connected to, you can assess them based on compliance. You can check the type of network access they have and what information could be accessed using those credentials. So it is anything more than the minimum. It is time to lock down that access and isolate the access to only the necessary information. Start with the providers who have the most unnecessary access and work your way down. And lastly, constantly review your own IT hygiene, eyes on your own. So yes, it is recommended to check on your third parties or organizations that you work with, but it is also important that you look into yourself first. So many organizations ignore it either because they did not know where to start or they believe they weren't important enough to be targeted through the compromise of a trusted partner. So your cybersecurity practices could mean the difference between a mild inconvenience and a catastrophic data breach. So what we recommend that you practice the following pieces of guidance to ensure your IT operations are up to scratch. The first thing that we recommend is you enable multi-factor authentication. This is the most common way we see organizations fall victims to supply chain attacks and other attacks or sophisticated attacks. It's through the use of stolen but authorized access. That is to say, um, pag nangyari yun, they aren't required to do MFA or to use MFA when the credentials are stolen. And what they will be allowed to do is to exploit not only the credentials stolen, but also the assets or the whole environment. So we can start with this and follow the best practices that we have discussed earlier in the session. So we know that a single vendor cannot or won't be enough to fully evolve your cybersecurity approach, but Sophos has a huge range of technologies to help you get there. So these are the technologies and services enablers. Many of our products help you secure multiple resources and assets at the same time, but by no means does that mean you can employ just one technology and move on. It has to be considered on a bigger picture. See the big picture here. It is considered as an ecosystem rather than just a point technology or point function approach. Sophos Adaptive Cybersecurity Ecosystem is our approach to cybersecurity because we believe that technologies should talk. Tech should talk. Sophos Central orchestrates all our technologies in a single console, providing you with the oversight or the visibility of all the technologies in a single place, and also employ open API to wire together any third-party technologies you are already using. So only through this talking can we achieve the adaptive and the dynamic policies that we need so that we can adapt on the sudden changes or the rapid changes in the threat landscape. So Sophos ACE is an evolution of synchronized security that address the new reality of interconnected business systems and attacks shifting to automation plus hands-on keyboard. The Sophos ACE was built to protect the connectedness of our businesses and also online world. With security operations approach, it is also a system that protects systems and data wherever they exist and constantly learns and improves to protect future shifts in the technology and attacks. So you can start small. It does not mean that you have to, employ everything already and have this as big as the picture is showing you. Most of our customers starts with endpoint plus the firewall on the network side of things, and integrate them together so that they could share insights from an endpoint perspective and on the network perspective. So with that, our customers are leveraging on the function of synchronized security, having their response done automatically. So for example, there is a compromised endpoint detected. The endpoint will then inform the firewall, hey, I'm not healthy. You should block access of other healthy endpoints going to me or from me going to them, so that the lateral movement will be prevented, and the compromise will be isolated. So that's just one of the use cases that our customers are enjoying using the cybersecurity ecosystem approach of our solutions. So get up to speed. These are the available resources you can leverage on for free, and check on what else we can do to improve your cybersecurity approaches. So thanks again for attending. And Jet, do you have anything else to add to conclude this session?
Okay, thanks. Hello, thanks, Lynette, for that full packed information you said there. We have been, I think, me personally, I have also been updated while you were doing the session. So it was really great. I think you have clearly emphasized that there is no perfect cybersecurity approach, but rather knowing the wrong approach in cybersecurity will allow us individuals, or perhaps the listeners right now, will be able to know and take action. I think that's the more emphasized that you have really said there. And perhaps the information that I will leave to the audience, or perhaps a question is, do you have your own cybersecurity checklist in place? Or if you have, how many of those have you already ticked? Or if you don't know where to start, I believe that's where our partner and our solution will be able to assist you further. So do not ever neglect human intelligence, because they are also intelligent just like us. So okay, just make sure you have your own protections in place within your organization. I think that's it.